Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for May 28th, 2023. Happy Memorial Day tomorrow. For those of you who have served, thank you for serving our country. In the security and privacy alerts, Microsoft says that there's an email compromise that's going around that evades their what they call impossible travel alert, meaning that you're kind of in two places at the same time or close to the same time. The way it works is the bad guys compromise your employees' home internet connection, which is not a big surprise. That seems like that's a big problem, that employees might not have all the protections they should have at home like they do at work. And the net effect of that is they don't look like they're traveling because they're not traveling. That's coming from your employee's home compromised internet. The only way to deal with that, of course, is to get your employees to improve their home internet security. And that could potentially be a challenge. One hacker network apparently has over 100 million compromised IP addresses. Most of those are home IP addresses, I suspect. And probably a lot of those are your employees. And next, also in the alert department, the FBI is a warning about basically a human trafficking ring that is luring people to Southeast Asia, and with the prospect of getting jobs there. And the jobs supposedly have competitive salaries and benefits, but the reality is that the company is in the cryptojacking business, and by the time people travel all the way across the world, relocate, and discover that they're part of a large-scale criminal enterprise, they're kind of screwed. So that's a challenge. And of course, the targets of the cryptojacking are mostly Americans, or a lot of them are Americans, because that's where the money is. So I guess the warning there is, if you're going to travel across the world for a job, make sure it's a legitimate job. In the Important Issues Department, President Biden has nominated Lieutenant General Timothy Haw to head the NSA and Cybercom. Now, they're not saying anything about what's going on with General Nakasone, but maybe he just figures it's time to retire or move on or whatever. Not clear whether politics will get in the way of this or not, but the Lieutenant General has served in a number of senior roles at Cyber Command, so he's not new to the organization. We shall see whether this makes it through Congress or not. Next, CISA is warning of a Samsung bug that allows hackers to bypass address-based layout randomization, which is a technique that randomizes memory to make it harder to find addresses inside a device. In this case, it's on an Android phone, because that's what Samsung makes. And the good news is, the bad news is they use it to install spyware, the exploit. The good news is that it requires a local access, so you already have to have the phone compromised. It just allows them to install ransomware, which wouldn't have been possible otherwise. So, I always say install patches. I think that's a good idea, but this one is a moderate risk at best. The FTC, under the legal department, is suing a voice over IP telephone provider for sending billions of robocalls our way, but they've been doing this since 2018. The folks at the FTC have been warning these guys, and now 5 or 6 years later, they're going off and actually doing something about it. Pretty clear that the FTC does not have the tools they need to do the job that they're been asked to do, and unless Congress acts, that's not going to change. Also, in the legal front, the AI wars continue. This one is an interesting one, and I suspect we'll see more of this. The Twitter is threatening to sue Microsoft. I don't think they've actually filed a suit yet. But the issue at hand is, what do you train your AI with? And obviously, the Twitter fire hose is something that is useful for training AIs with. Microsoft does have a deal with Twitter, but Twitter says that Microsoft isn't exactly living up to the terms of the deal. Kinda, they're being a little cagey about it. Maybe they just want more money from Microsoft, not clear. But in any case, we shall see where this goes. One thing they're claiming is that Microsoft is sharing, they think, data with the government, and that apparently is a violation of their terms of service. But as everybody knows, U.S. federal law trumps anything that some idiot corporate law department can come up with. So depending on the details of this, Microsoft might well be following the law, and Twitter may have nothing they can do about it. But it's not clear at this point. So we'll just have to see, what comes up of this. But I do think we'll see more of this because these companies are going to need more and more data in order to train their AIs, and that's large volumes of data. They don't want onesie twosies. They want 1 billion, 2 billion, and that's hard to do. There's not a lot of sources for that. In the education department, Google is set to roll out Privacy Sandbox in Chrome in July. This is like the 17th attempt that they've come up with. How do we kill third-party cookies but without destroying our advertising business? This one looks like it's going to happen. We shall see, but it'll mean a change in how, if you use third-party cookies to track people, it's a change in how you do things. It looks like they're going to start killing off third-party cookies, kind of like initially 1% of the users, 2%, whatever they're going to do, but a small number of users in early 2024. That's just a few months from now. And then I assume they'll ramp it up pretty quickly, assuming they don't blow anything up as a result of doing what they're doing. So if you use third-party cookies, time to go figure out what you're going to do next. In the breaches department, for America, which is a large pharmacy service provider, operates over 180 pharmacies nationwide, kind of has a little problem. Their systems were compromised a couple of months ago, and the hackers got away with patient data on about 6 million patients. In addition to the usual stuff like names, birthday, socials, and stuff like that, they also got medication and insurance information. And the typical answer here is, well, we'll give you years of credit monitoring, but that really doesn't help this kind of fraud. So I'm not sure how you actually put this particular genie back in the bottle. Next, also in the large-scale healthcare world, Apria Healthcare. They're the guys who will sell you oxygen and wheelchairs or rent them to you. They seem to have lost track of data. That they were compromised between 2019 and 2021. They discovered it in September of 2021, but it is just now apparently that they're figuring out what data was stolen, and that's why they haven't done any notifications yet. So I'm not sure that the feds are going to have a lot of excitement about saying, gee, 2 years is a reasonable time to notify. And I suspect that the lawsuits will be coming fast and furious over this. We shall see. And lastly, in the breach department, the city of Augusta, Georgia, was hit by a cyber incident. One more time, they're playing it coy. That was until the Black Bite ransomware crew put up on their website that they hacked them. So now they can't say they don't know what happened. They did say that the city was a victim of unauthorized system access. Whoa, isn't that a euphemism or something or other? And that they're investigating whether any data was stolen. On the other hand, the local TV station Fox 54 reported last week that the gang is demanding $50 million. So the city's in a bit of a pickle. I mean, we've seen this time and again where organizations report things that happen during a breach incorrectly, and then they get beat up over that. On the other hand, they also get beat up for not letting people know what's going on. So it's and it may well be literally, and I have no clue what the city of Augusta, Georgia, what their IT department is. I mean, maybe they're just don't really know what's going on at this point. That's certainly a possibility. But what they are doing is they definitely have given the upper hand to the hackers in terms of controlling the narrative of the story, which is never good. Next, a group of verified Twitter accounts, which just basically means all verified means is that they're paid accounts as opposed to free accounts, posted some AI modified photos of explosions in front of the Pentagon and the White House. Of course, the stock market went berserk. The Arlington, Virginia police finally put out a notice on their Twitter account saying this is a hoax. But I do believe, and of course, Twitter did not pull down the tweets. I think this is what we're going to see during the 2024 election cycle, which is a bit unnerving because, if you see, whoever the candidate of your choice is, kissing a pig, he may be really kissing a pig because candidates do that sometimes, but it also could be an AI generated image that neither has the candidate nor the pig in the image. So, or for that matter, obviously something worse. So, we don't really know what's going to happen here, but, the challenge is at this point, you really can't believe what you see, and that's a problem. How much does failing to install a patch cost? Well, in one case, a medical provider was fined more than $500,000 because they had a breach, and the breach was caused by a lack of patching the firewall, which is obviously a problem. And the feds didn't take comment to them. They fined them $550,000. Now, they could have had I would say, a pretty nifty, keen security program for $550,000, but they instead chose to roll the dice, and I think it came up snake eyes for them. So, words are wise, spend a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit of money on your cybersecurity program, and maybe you'll wind up with a $500,000 fine. Next, the right to repair movement is moving forward. Unfortunately, each state is doing it differently. What they include, what they don't include is really kind of weird. You think they would just kind of come up with, okay, these are the kinds of things that you should be able to repair and and kind of agree on it amongst the states, but that's not the case. One state says you can fix cars, and another state says you can't fix cars, and one state says you can fix farm equipment, and another state says you can't fix farm equipment. So anyway, Minnesota is the newest state in this particular department, and even though they didn't do it perfectly, they did it pretty well. It's a pretty broad range of stuff that they allow you to repair. Now, the good news is, generally speaking, companies are not stupid enough from a PR standpoint to say, well, since we have to give you parts and information if you live in this state, but you don't live in that state, we're not going to go give that to you. That doesn't play well in social media. So once these companies start complying with this, generally speaking, it's available nationwide. A perfect example of that is Apple. Of all the people with their closed sandbox, they're now doing that nationwide and allowing people to go fix their own devices. So I think this bodes well for users. It'll take a little while to roll out and stuff, but this is a good move. And lastly, the security news bites for this week. Sometimes the patch goes sideways. In this particular case, the patch or is HP, and the result is printers, which are basically bricks. And a couple weeks into this, HP does not have an answer as to what they're going to do about it. Probably wind up replacing a bunch of printers, but we'll see. Next, Chinese hackers behind the Guam breach have apparently been spying on the U.S. military for years. Next, an OAuth authorization flaw. That's where you use your social media login to authenticate yourself to another site, exposes you to account takeover. Now, OAuth has released a fix, but it's up to the websites to go off and make sure it's deployed properly. Capita has gotten caught, and this is sort of goes back to that Augusta, Georgia breach, has released multiple erroneous breach details. They keep saying, oh, well, it's this, and then it winds up being that, and then it winds up being the other thing. And that's the downside of speaking too soon. On the other hand, again, if you don't talk, then you're in a boat where the other side, the hackers, control the narrative. So, what this means is you need to improve your ability to go figure out what's going on more quickly so that you can, in fact, control the narrative. And lastly, the feds are using an AI tool to analyze social media data, both for citizens and non-citizens. This shouldn't come as a big surprise. I mean, this is no different than them analyzing it by hand. It's just they can analyze a lot more data a lot quicker. And there's certainly nothing illegal with what they're doing. So from that perspective, while you may not like it, it's certainly not illegal. If we can help you, obviously, please reach out to us. And until next time, stay cyber safe. Thanks for listening.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.